This is a PowerPoint on the safest card crafts for new WoW players. Starting out at the absolute weakest argument I can make is Arcane Giant. This card has been seen play continually for the last year or so in Miracle Rogue and Questline Druid whenever that deck is good. Now, I will admit, this is obviously the weakest argument for any card on this list. It's a very powerful card. It's never going to get nerfed because it's not technically the problem card in any of the decks it's in, but it's incredibly powerful. It lets you do a lot of things, and I just wanted to put it there as a baseline for where you think these cards are going to go through. This card is very powerful, of course. Miracle Rogue is continually one of the best decks in the game at any given point. Right now, it is the best deck in the game, of course, and when we had Questline Druid a few months ago, that was also the best deck in the game, running Arcane Giant. Then I have Risky Skipper and Armor Smith. The entire warrior class is held up by these two cards currently. You really cannot play a warrior deck in Wild that is not an Armor Smith Skipper kind of deck, where you're going to gain a lot of armor, you're going to draw a lot of cards, you're going to do a lot of different stuff. These are easily the best two cards in the entire class. Let any warrior main tell you that. That's not really something that can be argued. People just accept that as fact. They let you draw cards with Light the Phoenix and Battle Rage. You can tutor Risky Skipper with your Ankar. You can gain a lot of armor with Armor Smith and the Quillbore from Festival of Legends. I think it's Razorfen Rockstar. You can get OTKs from these cards. You can get just infinite armor, so you can't be killed. They're so powerful. The entire warrior class is completely held up by these two cards. And if either of them were to be nerfed, which isn't going to happen, the class would probably implode from a lack of powerful cards. Then it's obviously Ice Block. Come on, this card avoids nerfs like it's fucking Neo dodging bullets in the Matrix. This card is even more of a crutch for the mage class than the warrior cards that I listed before. If this card were to ever be nerfed, I genuinely think mage would have a sub 40% win rate in Wild. That is how much this card carries the class, and people agree. There are even some people that play decks that all they do is try and repeat Ice Block and then just annoy their opponents into conceding. That's a real strategy that you can do in this video game, and it's not the worst thing ever. Ice Block is so immensely powerful that people will not run any other frost spells in their deck just so you can get it off of Varden again. They'll run Ancient Mysteries, I think it's called. The 2-mana draw a secret card just for 2 copies of Ice Block. They'll do anything in their power to get multiple copies of Ice Block in a game, because that's the only way that Mage can play the game currently. Mage has really bad removal cards. Mage has no healing and survivability, aside from Sleet Skater, which is a 5-mana card, and it's a great card, yes, but it's not even on the same level as a lot of other cards. But yeah, Ice Block, this one, I feel like this one, and it was incredibly obvious, was going to be on the list for anyone that knows anything about Wild. Then you have Zilliax Deluxe 3000. This card is incredibly powerful in Standard, of course. It gets nerfed all the time, which is part of the reason I cannot put it higher. This card is continually getting nerfed. It's already been nerfed 3 times, if I'm correct. Maybe even 4 times. So technically, it's not a safe craft, I will admit, but it's such a powerful card. It sees play in numerous decks. You run it in almost any slower deck because you want to have your unkillable Zilliax, you want to have your lifesteal Zilliax, or you can run it as a buff Zilliax in Swarm decks. You can run it as its own separate threat with the Haywire module and Power module to just scale out of control. It's just so incredibly powerful that Zilliax is going to be one of the best crafts that you can ever make for Wild. Eventually, when it rotates, it'll probably get reverted because it's such an iconic legendary that it hopefully will get reverted. I say hopefully because, the fiasco that happened with this year's reverts, but honestly, the Zilliax is a pretty safe craft. Then you have another tie in the Reno Lone Ranger and Reno Jackson cards. I cannot, in good faith, put these cards higher up on the list because 2 of the best Reno decks in the game are not running Reno Jackson, and 1 of them is not running Reno Lone Ranger. So I cannot, in good faith, put it up that high. Even though Reno decks are very powerful, they're very iconic, they see a lot of play over the years, just the fact that they're not being run in some Reno decks needs to be addressed, that these cards are actually falling off in power level, especially Reno Jackson, especially. So I cannot hold, like, very well in good faith recommend this to all new players, but these cards are good. If you already own Reno Lone Ranger from Standard, that's nice. You can play it in Reno Priest, you can play it in Reno Paladin, Reno Shaman, well, I guess Shutter Shaman, Reno Druid, anything like that. But Reno Jackson does not see any play in Reno Priest or Reno Hunter. If you're actually trying to win, you just don't need those cards. It doesn't help you. It's a 6 mana 4/6 do nothing because it doesn't make you any stronger to aggro, and it is completely useless into slower decks, so it's just a bad card. Then, at number 5, of course, we have Secret Passage. This card is one of the best cards in the entire game, just bar none. People have been asking for this card to be nerfed, actually, ever since it got its first nerf from 5 cards to 4. It's in every single rogue deck. Every rogue deck in the entire game should be running Secret Passage, without question. This is the best card in the entire class. It's probably the best class card in the entire game. That's not a question either, I would say. And it's just so immensely powerful that something is probably going to be done by Blizzard. Let's be honest here. It probably will get nerfed. So I do feel that's why I'm not putting it any higher, because there is a chance this card does get nerfed, but it's just so powerful. You need to have it to play Rogue and Wild. It's so everything. Every single broken rogue deck runs it. Every bad rogue deck runs it. Every rogue deck runs it. Hell, if you could put this card in any other class, every other class would run this card. Every single other class would run Secret Passage if they had the opportunity to do it. It's so fucking broken. Like, it's not just 1 mana draw 4 for 1 turn. It's 1 mana draw 4 for 1 turn. If you have Gear Shift, you get to keep the draws. If you hit Shadow of Demise, you get to keep the Shadow of Demise because it has a bugged interaction with Secret Passage. It's unreal what this card does for Rogue. It's just crazy. Then I have a tie of the neutral tech cards that are just so powerful. Loatheb, Boom Pistol Bully, Razor Scale. You can throw in Speaker Stomper. You can throw in Cult Neophyte. You can put in, like, Trapdoor Spider. A bunch of different, like, neutral tech cards that all fit the same idea. Okani as well, but I think Okani's free, actually, so that's good input there. But neutral tech is unreal levels of powerful, especially as the game gets faster and faster. Neutral tech becomes even more powerful. Razor Scale, I'd argue, is one of the best cards in the entire game right now. Like, I think it's a top 3 card in my opinion. It's so insane how necessary Razor Scale is for any slow deck to try and play the game. Reno Priest needs Razor Scale to even have a chance against Rogue and sometimes Warlock. Paladin needs Razor Scale to slow down Warlock and Rogue to be able to be the best control deck in the game. Hunter needs it to be able to out-tempo them and beat them faster. It's just such a necessary card. In the current meta, Loatheb is at probably the worst it's ever been. Not because putting spells to cost 5 more is bad. More the fact that Loatheb just can't come down. He just can't come down, right? Any deck that you're playing against that plays spells will probably just have dumped all of their spells by turn 5 anyway, so Loatheb doesn't really matter. He's still a good card, and he's probably he's definitely still a safe craft, don't get me wrong, but currently people are slotting in Boom Pistol Bully because Loatheb just doesn't matter anymore. It doesn't matter if you get to turn 5 because they already played all their spells anyway. So Bully makes it so they can't play Battlecry minions, which affects a lot of decks that aren't going to be playing spells on turn 5 anyway. Of course, like I'm saying, Loatheb is still a safe craft. He'll be good again eventually, if Rogue gets nerfed and we have more slower decks that are running a lot of spells, like your Quest Mages and your Questline Demon Hunters, things of that nature that you can actually use Loatheb as. Speaker Stomper is currently better than Loatheb, just straight up. And Speaker Stomper is like a common, if I remember correctly, so I didn't include it. But yeah, Bully, great card. Razor Scale, great card. Loatheb, great card. If you have these cards, do not disenchant them at all. Then, at number 3, we have Patches the Pirate. A lot of people might have considered Patches being a number 1 or number 2 card. I don't think so. Patches the Pirate really only goes in 2 decks in the meta, in Shadow Priest and Pirate Rogue. Yes, they're very good decks a lot of the time, but it's not really that safe of a craft to only have a card that is good in 2 decks. I know that Patches is one of the most powerful cards ever printed. I know that, but you have to understand that when you see number 2, it's more about, can you get more value from this card by putting it in more decks? And Patches just can't. Yes, Patches is an auto-include in every playable pirate deck from now until ever. You have to run Patches because of the fact that you just get +1/+1 for free the first time you play a pirate. It's effectively makes you have a 29 card deck, so you can have better draw consistency, things like that. But like I'm saying, he's not beating number 2, which is Gang Greymane, of course. Even decks across the board are pretty good. Shaman, Paladin have been the best overall. Even Shaman comes and goes based on totem support that we get. Even Paladin has been nerfed like 4 times through Standard, so it's a little bit iffy. But Gang Greymane definitely goes in a lot of decks. Druid, Warlock, Hunter, Death Knight, Priest, Paladin, Shaman all have playable even decks that you can play. So this is one legendary that you can craft that goes in like 7 different classes I've already listed off. You can play even for every class, but technically not Demon Hunter. But he's not as good in things like Mage. Even Mage is the deck you can play, but it's not great. Even Warrior is not great right now because Odin got nerfed. Things like that. So you can play it, but I don't recommend it. However, Gang Greymane, great card. He will be a playable card for now until who knows how long. And then at number 1, it was obviously Zephyrus the Great. This is the most powerful Highlander legendary, Reno legendary, whatever you want to call it, by far. You have to run this card in every Reno deck, no matter what one it is. Unlike Reno himself, Zephyrus there is no Reno deck without Zephyrus the Great. You can coin him on 1 to get Wild Growth on 2. You can play him on 2 to get Wild Growth on 3. You can play him on like turn 5 to get Lightning Storm to clear a board. You can play him on like turn 7 to get Jiraxis to gain value in the late game. You can play him for like 4 damage if you need 4 damage from something like what's it called? Soulfire. You have so many different options from Zephyrus. This card makes Zilliax look like I don't even know, dude. The flexibility of Zephyrus the Great is unreal. He's so powerful. Most people consider Zephyrus the best card ever printed. I think so as well. Zephyrus is unreal. Like, this card utterly dominates certain metas when Reno decks are powerful. It's just unreal. You have to have Zephyrus the Great if you want to play any Reno deck. And like I'm saying, Reno decks are pretty good. One of the best decks in the entire game right now is Reno Paladin, Reno deck. Reno Priest is very good, Reno deck. Reno Hunter is very good, Reno deck. A lot of people still like playing Reno Warlock, Reno deck. If you are a Standard player and you have a lot of Reno Warrior cards, guess what? Zephyrus goes in that deck. It's just such a powerful card that you have to own Zephyrus the Great in Wild. I'm saying that as a fact. If you want to play a lot of very powerful decks, Gang Greymane, Zephyrus the Great give you the most value of a single legendary craft. Honorable mentions are Dark Bishop Benedictus and Sing-Along Buddy, actually. Sing-Along Buddy goes in a lot of different decks. You can play him in Shadow, and you can play him in Shadow Priest. You can play him in Reno Priest. He's not amazing, but most even decks want to be playing him. Uther of the Ebon Blade, Exodia Paladin wants to play him. Questline Druid wants to play him. A lot of decks want to play Sing-Along Buddy, and then of course Dark Bishop Benedictus goes in a lot of decks, being Shadow Priest, being Reno Priest. Those are both perpetually good decks. Reno Priest never falls below tier 3. Shadow Priest is almost always tier 1 or tier 2. So that's why I think it's a very fair honorable mention. But yeah, that being said, if you enjoyed, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Did I miss any cards that you think should have been on this list? Do you not own any of these cards and you were just now figuring out they're great cards? Do you think that Arcane Giant is definitely the weakest argument on this list, and I kind of just needed a 10th card and didn't want to put Dark Bishop Benedictus? That's actually the reason. But yeah, if you enjoy, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.
Rising again! Darker than they've ever been.